The sky cracked open, and Kayra Khan's voice thundered across the Altay Mountains, silencing the wolf packs of the steppes. This was no ordinary storm. The earth trembled as the first Turkic clans whispered of a god who ruled before Tengri's reign. But the Orkhon inscriptions, carved in 735 CE, say nothing of Kayra Khan, only Tengri, the sky god who shaped the Khagan's destiny. Yet, in the shadow of Mount Tanri Dagi, a shaman's chant still echoes, "Kayra Khan, the forgotten flame, will rise again." The steppes, vast and unbroken, stretch beneath the gaze of Tengri, whose light pierces the clouds above the Göktürk Khaganate's capital, Ordu-Baliq. Here, the wind carries the scent of sage and the low growl of Bozkurt, the gray wolf, who once trapped the Turkic people in the mountains until Tengri freed them. Shamans, clad in fox pelts, dance under the moon to appease Umay, the earth goddess, while the Göktürks pray to Tengri for rain and victory. But the Ergenekon legend tells of a different time, when the Turkic people, bound in the mountains, cried out for a god who would not be Tengri. And so, the myth of Kayra Khan was born, not from the sky, but from the earth's own memory. The Göktürks, whose ancestors once wandered the steppes like shadows, believed that Kayra Khan was the first to carve the mountains and the rivers, shaping the world before Tengri's light touched the heavens. Yet the inscriptions, etched in the sacred language of the Khaganate, bear no trace of his name. Only the wind knows the truth, how the shaman's chant lingers in the hollows of Tanri Dagi, where the wolves howl at the moon and the stars flicker like the eyes of forgotten gods. The earth, ancient and unyielding, holds the secrets of Kayra Khan, a god who never ruled, only waited until the moment the Turkic people needed a name to call their own. The steppes stretch endlessly, golden under the gaze of Tengri, whose light pierces the clouds above the Göktürk Khaganate's capital, Ordu-Baliq. Here the wind carries the scent of sage and the low growl of Bozkurt, the gray wolf, who once trapped the Turkic people in the mountains until Tengri freed them. Shamans clad in fox pelts dance under the moon to appease Umay, the earth goddess, while the Göktürks pray to Tengri for rain and victory. But the Ergenekon legend tells of a different time when the Turkic people, bound in the mountains, cried out for a god who would not be Tengri. And so, the myth of Kayra Khan was born, not from the sky, but from the earth's own memory. The Göktürks, whose ancestors once wandered the steppes like shadows, believed that Kayra Khan was the first to carve the mountains and the rivers, shaping the world before Tengri's light touched the heavens. Yet the inscriptions, etched in the sacred language of the Khaganate, bear no trace of his name. Only the wind knows the truth. How the shaman's chant lingers in the hollows of Tanri Dagi, where the wolves howl at the moon and the stars flicker like the eyes of forgotten gods. The earth, ancient and unyielding, holds the secrets of Kayra Khan, a god who never ruled, only waited until the moment the Turkic people needed a name to call their own. In the Ordu-Baliq, Tengri is depicted as the source of all life, his sun the eye that sees all, his stars the warriors who guard the sky's edge. But no text speaks of Kayra Khan's hand shaping the first yurts, or his voice calming the storms that once swallowed entire clans. Only the Ergenekon's jagged peaks whisper of a time when the Turkic people, caged by Bozkurt's teeth, called out to a god who had no name, until the shaman's fire burned bright enough to carve one from the dark. The young shaman Arslan, his face streaked with ash from the fire he carried, pressed deeper into the forbidden forest of Jungaria, where the trees grew twisted like the fingers of the dead. His dream had spoken in riddles. The first flame burns where the earth meets the sky. Seek it, or the Turkic people will forget their name. The wind howled through the pines, carrying the scent of iron and decay. Here, the sun never touched the ground, and the shadows moved like living things at the forest's heart. Arslan stumbled upon a clearing where the air shimmered with heat. Before him stood a figure cloaked in storm clouds, its voice a rumble of thunder. "You seek Kayra Khan," it intoned, "but he is no god." He is the shadow of your own hunger. The figure's eyes blazed with the color of Tengri's sky, and Arslan fell to his knees. "Why do you speak of him as if he never was?" he begged. The spirit raised a hand, and the ground split open, revealing a chasm of fire. Because Kayra Khan was never a god. He was a lie told by those who feared Tengri's light. The wind shifted, and Bozkurt, the gray wolf, emerged from the darkness, his fur the color of storm-tossed steel, his jaws dripped with the blood of a forgotten age. "Prove your worth," the wolf growled, "or be devoured by the flames of your own doubt." Before Arslan stood the eternal flame, a pillar of fire that flickered like a mirror. As he stepped closer, the flames reflected not his face, but the greed in his heart, the hunger for power that had driven him here. His hands trembled, he reached out, and the flame vanished, leaving only smoke and silence. The wolf's laughter echoed through the clearing. "You have failed," he said. "Now wander, Shaman, and let the steppes remember your name as a warning." Arslan's fire died in his palm, and the forest swallowed him whole, leaving only the wind to carry his sorrow. The sky darkened as Tengri descended, his form a tempest of lightning and shadow, the clouds parting to reveal his eyes, burning twin suns that saw through the hearts of mortals. The steppes quaked beneath his wrath, the wind howling like the cry of 1,000 wolves. "Why do you seek Kayra Khan?" his voice roared, a thunderclap that split the earth. "He is no god. He is the shadow of your hunger, the lie you forged to forget my light." Arslan, trembling on his knees, clutched the ashes of his failed flame. "If he never was," he pleaded, "why do the people still whisper his name?" Tengri's gaze fell on the Ergenekon peaks, their jagged teeth gnashing against the sky. "Because myths are born from the hearts of those who forget," he intoned. "You sought a god to replace me, but the steppes do not need false flames. They need the truth of the earth beneath their feet." The storm raged, and from the ground rose Umay, her form woven from roots and stone, her voice a low murmur of rivers. "The true power," she whispered, "lies not in forgotten gods, but in the bonds of kinship, the hearth, the land that cradles your children." The wind stilled. The sky blazed with Tengri's light, and the Ergenekon Mountains stood as a testament, not to a lost god, but to the resilience of the Turkic people who had carved their destiny from the earth, not the sky. Arslan, his fire extinguished, felt the weight of the steppes upon him. The myth of Kayra Khan had been a whisper in the dark, but Tengri's judgment had made it clear. The Turkic soul was not bound to a name, but to the unyielding spirit of the land that bore them. The stars flickered, and the wolves howled, their song no longer a cry for a forgotten god, but a hymn to the eternal steppe. In 2026, a Turkish historian named Dr. Leyla Aksu unearthed a brittle 19th-century manuscript in the archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, its pages inked with a forgotten script. The text, penned by a wandering Sufi named Emir Han, spoke of Kayra Khan as a lost god of the Turkic tribes whose fire burned beneath the earth until the first Khagan rose. Yet no earlier records, not even the Orkhon Inscriptions or the Ordu-Baliq, bore his name. The manuscript's words, however, ignited a fire in the hearts of modern Turkic communities. In the Altay Mountains, a new festival emerged, Kayra's Flame, where shamans lit pyres of juniper and sage, chanting verses that blended Tengri's sky with the earth's buried hunger. The myth was never about a god. Dr. Aksu wrote in her 2026 monograph, "The Shadow of the First Flame," but about the Turkic soul's yearning to carve its own destiny, even in the face of the infinite.